Is your website professionally managed? Have you ever questioned your web service provider's skills but didn't know how to verify their experience? Maybe you weren't satisfied with how they responded to some of your inquiries. If that's the case, this video is perfect for you. Today, you'll learn how to determine whether your provider is a professional or a beginner. We'll focus solely on website backups, and we'll cover other topics in future videos. Think of this as a tech spec sheet for your website team. By the end, you'll know exactly what to look for in a provider and whether yours makes the cut. We're talking about the difference between a smooth running site and a potential disaster. So, let's get started. First up, the most basic question. How often do they back up your website? Now, a beginner might say, oh, we do it monthly or whenever we remember, and that's a huge red flag. We're talking about your entire website here. All your data, content, everything. A professional, though, will have a solid answer, like daily or even hourly backups, depending on your needs. They'll explain the why behind it, like the importance of minimizing data loss in case of a crash. They'll be confident in their answer because they know what's at stake. Think of it like saving your work on a huge project. You wouldn't wait a month to hit save, right? The same logic applies here. A professional understands this instinctively. Okay, so they're backing up your site regularly. But where is all that data going? This is where things get interesting. An inexperienced provider might say, don't worry, it's on our server. But what if something happens to server? A true professional will talk about off-site backups, ideally in multiple locations. They'll mention cloud services, maybe even dedicated backup servers. The key here is redundancy. They understand that if one location fails, you need a backup for your backup. Think of it like this. You wouldn't keep your only house key on the same keychain as your car key, right? You need a separate, secure location. That's the kind of thinking you want in a website team. Let's talk about security. A beginner might say, oh yeah, our backups are password protected, and leave it at that. But that's like locking your front door and leaving the key under the mat. A professional will go in depth about encryption methods, access control lists, and maybe even two-factor authentication for accessing backups. They understand that these backups contain sensitive information and treat them accordingly. Think about it. Your website data is valuable, and you wouldn't want just anyone to get their hands on it. A professional gets that and has layers of security in place. Now, let's say the worst happens and you need to restore your website from a backup. A beginner might fumble, saying, give us a few days, maybe a week, and we'll see what we can do. That's not reassuring. A professional, however, will have a clear restoration plan. They'll explain the process step by step, outlining a timeline that's as short as possible, maybe even a matter of hours. They understand that every minute your website is down could be costing you money and customers. Think of it like a fire drill. You don't wait until there's an actual fire to figure out an escape route. A professional team has practiced the restoration process and can execute it swiftly and efficiently. Finally, here's a question that separates the pros from the amateurs. How often do they test those backups? A beginner might say, well, we back it up so it should work, and that's a gamble you don't want to take. A professional, on the other hand, will have a regular testing schedule. They'll talk about restoring backups to a staging environment, verifying data integrity, and making sure everything works flawlessly. They're not just assuming, they're actively checking. Think of it like a smoke detector. You don't just assume it works. You test it regularly to make sure it'll be there when you need it. That's the level of diligence you want from your website team. By the end of this video, you should have effective tools to assess your provider's quality of service. Remember, a professional provider will always have clear, confident answers to these questions. If they hesitate or give you vague responses, it might be time to reconsider your options. Your website is your digital storefront, and you deserve a team that takes its security and integrity as seriously as you do. Don't settle for anything less. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.